Picture a time of change, a time of tension. It's the mid-18th century in the American colonies. This period was characterized by an escalating clash of ideologies, a struggle for power, and a growing desire for independence. The American colonies, once a distant outpost of the British Empire, were gradually transforming into a hotbed of dissent. The Seven Years' War, a global conflict fought between 1756 and 1763, played a pivotal role in setting the stage for the American Revolution. This war, also known as the French and Indian War in the American context, was a costly affair for the British Empire. Britain had emerged victorious, but the victory came at a high price. The coffers of the empire were drained, and Britain was left grappling with a towering war debt. In an attempt to recoup these losses, Britain turned to its American colonies. The British Parliament imposed a series of taxes on the colonies, including the infamous Sugar Act and Stamp Act. These laws required colonists to pay taxes on a wide range of goods, from molasses to legal documents. The aim was to generate revenue to help offset the costs of protecting and administering the vast American territories. However, these acts of taxation were met with widespread resistance from the colonists. They felt aggrieved, arguing that they were being unfairly taxed by a parliament in which they had no representation. This sentiment was famously encapsulated in the rallying cry, "No taxation without representation." The discontent among the colonists grew into a full-blown political storm. Protests, boycotts, and acts of civil disobedience became increasingly common. The colonies were united in their opposition against the British rule and their resolve to fight for their rights. The tension between the colonies and Britain was building up, and the relationship was becoming increasingly strained. The political landscape was changing, and the colonies were growing more assertive and defiant. The once loyal subjects of the British Crown were now questioning the authority of their colonial masters. The stage was set for a revolution. The colonies were on the brink of rebellion. The year is 1775, and the American colonies are a powder keg waiting to explode. Imagine the tension in the air. The discord between the 13 American colonies and the British government had reached a tipping point. The colonies, once loyal subjects of the British Crown, were chafing under the weight of oppressive taxation and restrictive laws. The colonists felt they were being unfairly taxed without their consent, a sentiment encapsulated in the rallying cry, "No taxation without representation." The Boston Massacre, 5 years prior in 1770, had already lit the fuse. British soldiers, beleaguered by a crowd of angry colonists, lost control and fired into the throng, killing 5. This incident, heavily publicized throughout the colonies, fueled the flames of rebellion and resentment against the British. Then came the infamous Boston Tea Party in 1773. Disguised as Mohawk Indians, a group of colonists boarded British ships and dumped over 300 chests of tea into Boston Harbor, a direct protest against the Tea Act. This event was a significant act of defiance, a public demonstration of the colonists' growing discontent and desire for autonomy. As tensions escalated, the colonies began to prepare for the possibility of conflict. Paul Revere, a silversmith and patriot, played a crucial role in this preparation. His famous midnight ride in April 1775, warning the colonists of the approaching British forces, is a testament to the burgeoning spirit of rebellion and unity among the colonists. The battles of Lexington and Concord soon followed. These were the first military engagements of the American Revolutionary War. The shot heard round the world was fired, and the skirmishes that ensued marked the outbreak of open armed conflict between the Kingdom of Great Britain and its 13 colonies in America. With the first shots fired, there was no going back. The American Revolution was underway. The fuse, once lit, had finally reached the powder keg, igniting a revolution that would change the course of history. As the war unfolded, the colonists faced both victories and defeats. The American Revolution was a time of incredible struggle, heroism, and resolve. It was a period marked by key battles and events that shaped the destiny of a nation. Let's take a moment to delve into some of these pivotal moments. In the heat of the conflict, the year 1776 brought a glimmer of hope and determination. The Declaration of Independence was drafted, a bold statement from the colonists announcing their separation from the British Empire. Penned by Thomas Jefferson and adopted by the Continental Congress on July 4th, this document was more than just a political statement. It was a manifesto of human rights and the principles of democracy, which still resonate today. Later that same year, the Battle of Saratoga unfolded. This was a turning point in the war, providing the colonists with a crucial victory that boosted their morale and won them support from foreign allies. Despite being heavily outnumbered, the American forces under General Horatio Gates managed to surround and capture a significant portion of the British Army. This victory demonstrated that the colonists could stand toe-to-toe with the might of the British, a realization that sent shockwaves around the world. Yet, the war was far from over. The winter of 1777–78 at Valley Forge was a true test of the colonists' resilience. The Continental Army, led by George Washington, faced freezing temperatures, disease, and a severe lack of supplies. It was a harsh winter, one marked by hunger, illness, and despair. Yet, the troops held on, their resolve hardened by the trials they faced. Valley Forge was a test of endurance, a crucible in which the metal of the future United States was forged. The hardships experienced there are a testament to the determination, the grit, the sheer indomitable will of the American people. Despite the odds, the colonies held on, driven by a desire for freedom. Their struggle would continue, but the seeds of a nation had been planted, ready to grow in the fertile soil of liberty. In the final stages of the war, the tide began to turn in favor of the colonies. A new player had entered the game, and this one was a game changer. France, still smarting from its loss in the 7 Years' War, saw an opportunity to get back at its old enemy, Britain. With the signing of the Treaty of Alliance in 1778, France officially entered the conflict. This was no mere token of support. French aid was substantive, and it went beyond just money and war supplies. French soldiers and naval forces joined the fray, tipping the balance of military power. The French Navy in particular was instrumental in disrupting British supply lines, causing a significant strain on the British war effort. But the tide didn't just turn on the high seas. On land, the Battle of Saratoga in 1777 had already hinted at a shift in momentum. The American victory there had not only boosted morale, but also convinced the French that the colonists could indeed hold their own. Then came the Battle of Yorktown in 1781. The combined forces of the French and the colonists, under the leadership of General George Washington and French General Comte de Rochambeau, laid siege to the British forces. The British, led by General Lord Cornwallis, were trapped. After weeks of intense fighting, Cornwallis was forced to surrender, effectively ending the major combat operations of the Revolutionary War. The impact of these events was profound. The entry of France into the war had changed the course of the conflict. The turning points, such as Saratoga and Yorktown, had led to the end of the war. The once invincible British were now on the back foot, their resources stretched thin and their morale low. The tide had indeed turned. The British were defeated, independence was within reach. The dream of a free and independent nation, once a distant hope, was now becoming a reality. The tide had turned, and there was no going back. With the signing of the Treaty of Paris in 1783, the American Revolution came to a victorious end. A new dawn was breaking. A nation had been born from the fires of revolution, its future yet untold. The aftermath of war was a period of great upheaval, a time of reconstruction and rebirth. The newly formed United States of America had to pick up the pieces from the long years of conflict and forge ahead. The steps taken during these years would lay the foundation for the country that it would become. One of the first orders of business was the drafting of the Articles of Confederation. This was the first constitution of the United States, and it served as the legal backbone of the new nation. However, it was soon apparent that the Articles were not sufficient to govern this burgeoning nation. They lacked the necessary strength and cohesion to hold the states together, leading to a myriad of problems. Recognizing these shortcomings, a group of visionaries convened in Philadelphia in the summer of 1787. The result of this historic gathering was the drafting of the U.S. Constitution, a document that would provide the framework for a more robust federal government. This document, a testament to the wisdom and foresight of its drafters, would go on to be the guiding light for the nation. The Constitution set forth a new form of government, one where the power was vested in the people. It established a system of checks and balances, ensuring that no single branch of government would hold too much power. With its ratification, the United States of America took a significant step towards becoming the beacon of freedom and democracy that it is known as today. From the ashes of revolution rose a new nation, born of a desire for freedom and self-governance. This is the story of the American Revolution. This is the story of a nation that dared to dream, a nation that dared to fight, and a nation that dared to be free.